We're learning more about a no-fly list lawsuit filed by a Jacksonville man, a U.S. citizen originally from Bosnia. He says he was stranded in his native country because the U.S. government improperly put him on a no-fly list, so he was stuck for months. He eventually did make it back here to Jacksonville. We have complete coverage, including a closer look at the controversial list. First, we begin with Channel 4's Scott Johnson live at the federal courthouse. Scott?
Well, Tom, when he was in Bosnia at the Sarajevo Airport, he goes to the counter and is told, you can't board the flight. You're with no explanation given on the no-fly list. Gets a one-time exception to get back here, only to find out he can't access the port anymore. His credentials have been revoked, and he's a truck driver. Another frustration. So day one on U.S. soil, he comes here, down to the federal courthouse, and sues the government. The lawsuit says Ziad Bosnik traveled to Bosnia and had pre-booked tickets to return to the U.S., but a Turkish Airlines representative informed Mr. Bosnik that he was no longer allowed to board his flight. That started a months-long fight to get back, which he did last night.
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. It is shock. I drive 3-4 hours from where I live there to Sarajevo, and plus there was a return ticket. There was a return flight ticket. They should inform me before that if they have something to say or whatever, they know where I am.
I met up with Bosnik and his attorneys outside the federal courthouse, where he's asked not to show his face. He adds this also affects his job as a truck driver and that he's no longer allowed to drive into U.S. ports like Jacksport. He received a letter from TSA that said, you may pose a security threat warranting the immediate revocation of your transportation worker identification credential.
Of course, it's a big stress for me and for a family, for everybody.
One of Bosnik's main problems with the feds is he's never been given a clear reason why he's been put on the no-fly list or why his port credentials have been revoked. So now he's being represented by the group, the Council on American-Islamic Relations.
Federal agencies like the FBI, the CBP, TSA, and those responsible and involved in the creation and maintenance of a federal terror watch list don't give U.S. citizens an opportunity, a fair and effective mechanism within which they can challenge their placement on the list.
So he's sued multiple government agencies. I've heard back from 2 so far, the TSA and the FBI. Both tell me they don't comment on pending litigation. Live downtown at the federal courthouse, Scott Johnson, Channel 4, the local station.
So how many people are on the no-fly list, and what are some ways your name could also end up there? Joy is here with some answers. Joy?
Well, Mary, let's start with how many people are on that no-fly list. According to numbers that Senator Dianne Feinstein gave on the floor of the Senate in 2016, that list contains about 81,000 names. However, fewer than 1,000 are, quote, U.S. persons. Now, there are several ways a person could get on the list. The first one, pretty obvious, being suspected of direct terrorist activity. Also, if you travel to certain countries, particularly frequent trips to countries known to be involved in terrorism, even something you said in the past could get you on the no-fly list. For example, back in 2012, the spouse of a Navy lieutenant believed he was flagged because of comments he made about 9/11. And sometimes it could just be a mistake. For example, if you have a similar name to someone who is on the no-fly list.